Thank you. I know it's a busy time of year, so it's a crazy time to be able to squeeze something like this in. So I really appreciate your taking the time to do so. And I'm going to go through a bit of information tonight, just really about some end of year planning topics. And if there's anything you want clarity on, or if you'd like me to email you a handout with some of what I talked about, or just email you with any of the specific points, because I'm not going to be using a slideshow tonight, then just let me know. So you can shoot me an email and let me know. So as we get closer to your end, I want to use this time. I'm going to encourage you to take some time not to scramble, which is really the often what we're pulled into during this season, but to pause and to engage in some year-end planning and thoughts and consideration, and just take a few moments aside to be really intentional. So the goal is to finish 2025 strong and start 2026 with clarity. So I'm going to cover some practical items. I'm going to cover new IRA contributions moving into 2026 and the changes, as well as generosity planning and some perspectives on LPL's 2026 outlook. So Ben Franklin said, those who fail to plan are planning to fail. So if we just step into the new year without taking stock of what's happened in the past and looking forward to how we want to pivot and adjust for the year forward, you're not going to change. So what is not measured doesn't get managed, and you're not going to end up making the changes you're looking to make. So I hope tonight is a little bit of a catalyst for you to start considering how you want to pivot into 2026, financially speaking. And this call will be probably only about 20 minutes tonight. And then we'll do question and answer, and you can feel free to raise your hand, which is at the bottom of your Zoom, at that point, if you'd like to ask some questions. So first, we're going to talk about some tax efficient giving and charitable strategies. Now, there are a lot of strategies out there for charitable giving and for legacy and things like that that are extremely complex that we are not going to get into. So these are just some practical ones that a lot of clients do incorporate into their planning. So one of the most common ones is QCDs. So QCD stands for Qualified Charitable Distribution. QCDs are open to those who are age 70 and a half or older. So when you're doing a QCD, what you're doing is, instead of taking money out of your IRA, say you need $10,000. So instead of taking out the $10,000, whether it be in one lump or over the month, and then withholding taxes, and then maybe you take $8,000 net in your pocket, and then you maybe write a check to your church or the American Cancer Society or an organization that's close to your heart. Instead of doing that, what you're able to do is take the money directly out of the IRA and pass it to the nonprofit organization without having to pay taxes on it. So this reduces your taxable income, and it often helps with your Medicare bracket and the amount you're taxed for Social Security. So especially if you're somebody who's doing a lot of charitable giving, instead of taking it out and having it show up as income on your tax return, you can give it straight from the IRA, so it is not reportable income. So that can be really, really useful and meaningful strategy in retirement. And it's great for those who don't itemize anymore. So several years back, itemizing went by the wayside, and now most people take the standard deduction on the taxes, and so you're not itemizing your charitable giving. So it's a great option though if you're not itemizing. A second strategy is bunching deductions. So many families, again, don't hit the standard deduction threshold each year on their deductions in order to itemize. So again, you're taking the standard deduction. So if your itemized goes above the standard deduction amount, then you may itemize. But otherwise, and most people don't have enough deductions to exceed the standard, so either you're not taking it. So what bunching does is it means you're grouping your charitable gifts into one year so that you can itemize that 1 year. So say I give $10,000 every single year in charitable giving, then I could say, all right, I know I have a high income earning year in 2026. And so I might say, I'm going to take $50,000 and you can pair it with a donor advised fund, put it into a donor advised fund. And then over the next 5 years, I can take out of the donor advised fund that 50 grand in $10,000 increments over 5 years to give to those nonprofit organizations. But in that 2026 year, when I file, I am able to take a deduction for that $50,000 because that exceeds the standard deduction. So that can be a little confusing. But again, the concept is if you're doing it anyway, you're going to bunch it all in 1 year and put it essentially into a holding tank, which is called a donor advised fund, which then allows you to put it there and hand it out later on in future years, although you take the deduction in the current year that you added into that holding tank. Another is giving as legacy I want to talk about. So this just goes along with the strategies in terms of charitable giving. So this is just a good time in general to realign your values and your giving and legacy goals. And giving doesn't always mean to a nonprofit organization. It could be giving to your family. It could be giving to friends, somebody you know who needs something. So these are case by case conversations. So if this is something on your heart, this is a good time of year to review whether a conversation about giving makes sense. Does it align with where you're heading? Sometimes in meetings, I might have conversations and say it's time to start thinking about your charitable giving. It's time to start thinking about all this money you're going to have at the end of life. Do you want to start giving it now while you're alive, or do you just want to wait? So you can give while you're living, or you can give while you're dead, either way. But it's something to think about. How do you want to steward your money? Do you want to see it enjoyed and watch your kids or grandkids enjoy it while you're living, or do you want to wait? And sometimes you need to wait just because you need enough for you. And other times during the planning process, it's easy for me to see that there's an overabundance of funds, and then you can start giving it earlier. So something to think about. Okay, rebalancing. So rebalancing is something that really happens behind the scenes in your portfolios. Most clients now have an advisory relationship with LPL Financial. And so this is monitored systematically. So you don't need to respond to every headline because it's already being done. So as things are changing in the economy and in the global markets and the domestic markets and in within the economic system, you will remain aligned with your risk tolerance that we established, your goals, and the market at all times because we're working through an advisory relationship. So that's really, really important. If the markets are moving significantly, or if I know there's something changing, if I know that you've told me you're going to retire in 6 months, I may reach out to you and say, hey, have you retired? Because that would be a reason to get together. So a significant change in your life is always a reason to connect. Otherwise, we work with a team approach. I'm overseeing your overall strategy and your goals. And I intentionally am partnering with my money managers whose sole focus is rebalancing and portfolio management, making sure your portfolio is working for you, making sure your portfolio is getting you to your goals so that your money will be there when you need it most. So the technical execution within your portfolio is not missed this way. It's constantly top of mind. So I hope that helps you understand rebalancing a little bit. It's not something that we do as a reaction. It's really a proactive action that's happening in the background all the time and is part of our ongoing portfolio management and our work that we do for you. This is also a good time to revisit your estate plan checkup, your estate plan, and get a checkup. So estate planning isn't really a year-end task. It's not something that every single year you need to revisit, but it's a great mind reminder. I think, we've all learned, when we change the clocks, we check our smoke alarms. It doesn't mean you have to check your smoke alarms and replace the batteries every time we change the clocks, but it's a reminder. It's a trigger to say, hey, have I evaluated this recently? So year end is a good time to bring your estate planning to your top of mind and say, is my estate plan as I want it, or do I need to revisit it? So you always want to make sure you have your 3 basic documents. And we've talked about this. I think 1 or 2 calls ago, we had Christina Vikstrom on, and she talked a lot about estate planning and the documents that you need. So you want to have your will, your healthcare directive, and your powers of attorney. So I'm going to briefly review what those 3 things are. I'm sure I have gone over them ad nauseum, one-on-one in appointments, as well as if you were on that call, you heard it, but I'm going to risk being redundant. So your will is basically your wishes. I would like my house to go here. I would like this to go there. It catches it catches your items that don't have a beneficiary, bank accounts without a beneficiary, jewelry, cars, property, etc. So you want your will. Your healthcare directive is appoint somebody to make healthcare decisions for you in the event that you're incapacitated. So this is really important. And usually the estate attorney will have you name a healthcare directive and 1 to 2 to 3 backups in case somebody's with you and they also can't make decisions or they decline to serve. And your power of attorney. The power of attorney is going to make all your other decisions for your financial, help pay your bills, help get, this is if you're incapacitated, not if you're dead. So the power of attorney and the healthcare directive are if you're living, but the power of attorney is somebody who can keep things running for you while you are incapacitated, essentially, which is different than your personal representative. When you do your will, you will name a personal representative, and that person is going to be named to handle your estate after you have passed away. So that is different than the power of attorney. So those are 2 distinctions to keep in mind. But for now, if something's changed in your life in 2025, has there been a new marriage? Have you had more children, more grandchildren? Have you moved? Have you had some new accounts added to your life, a new property, etc.? Any of those would be a reason that you might want to reach out to your estate attorney just to let them know what's been updated, and they can let you know if they need to make any changes or not. So I hope that makes sense. Okay, another thing that's good to review, and I don't have a visual of it, but if we think about money, money is really a tool, right? Money is our currency, so it's really important that we have it because it is our currency. And Ron Blue, who's one of my mentors, he teaches that every dollar can only do one of 3 things. It can live, give, you can use it to live, you can use it to give, you can owe it for taxes or debt, your mortgage, or you can put it to grow. So those are really the basic things you can do with it. And so I like to think of each dollar that comes in as a soldier. So if each dollar is a soldier, each dollar has a job. And it's for one of those things. And I think end of year is a great time to put onto like a spreadsheet, live, give, owe, grow, and take a couple months and put in how much money did you live on? Your vacations, your groceries, your haircuts, things like that. Your debts, like how much did you pay on debts, loans, home equity lines, etc. How much did you put aside this year to save towards retirement? Was it more than 2024 and 2025? Was it less? And how much did you give away? whether it be helping a friend, whether it be giving to a nonprofit. And then you can look at the categories and you can have your Excel spreadsheet, you can put it into a pie chart, and that gives you a nice visual. And this isn't about guilt, it's just about awareness and freedom. So it's a great time to look at it and say, does my financial picture match my values? Does this match where I want it, or is it off? And it's a good way to set goals. I think if you're married, this is also a good time to sit with your spouse. And if you're not, with yourself and do vision boards or write down your goals. Like, what are our goals for our family this year? And as you do this, you'll be able to say, well, we really want to take 3 vacations this year, or we want to take 1 vacation because we haven't been on that one in 10 years. We'd like to start saving for this house 10 years from now, or we want to start a business or buy some real estate or whatever those financial goals are. And there may be some that are like, I want to switch to, I don't know, I want to buy my meat from the farm this year, or I want to put a new roof on. Whatever the things are, if you write down your goals and you come together and decide on them together, then when those dollars come in, when those soldiers enter your hands, you're going to be much freer and have much more clarity surrounding where each dollar goes because you've already predetermined the priority order of the goals. And so if you feel like, hey, I'm at the store and I just found this, whatever, amazing pair of shoes that I want to buy, you can say, well, is this aligned with our goals, buying these shoes? Maybe it is. Maybe you said this year we're going to spoil ourselves and we're each going to get a $300 clothing budget for every single month. And you were like, hey, I haven't spent it yet, so this does align. Or maybe you said we're going to have a $50 clothing budget this year because we want to take all that extra and put it into a vacation fund so we can go to Italy. So it really helps you to be intentional about the trade-offs in life because there are always going to be trade-offs. We're always going to have simultaneous and competing financial priorities, just as you do on your time. It's the same with your money. And if you feel stressed about money, it isn't likely because you don't have enough. It's more likely it's because it's not flowing in a way that reflects your values and your goals. And so you're feeling that misalignment there. And so it creates a feeling of dissonance. So this is a good time to ask the question, does my financial picture match my values? And so my role is to bring clarity to this and to support your plan intentionally over time. So if this is something you want to go over, then absolutely we can do that. All right, I only have a couple more topics here. The next one is the retirement contributions. So it's the end of the year. There's not a lot of time to add, but this is a good time to assess if you have fully maxed out your contributions for 2025. Now, for your Roth IRAs and your traditional IRAs, you have till the 15th of April to do that. So if you're not sure if you've maxed out, reach out to me and ask. Send me an email, send it to Deb. Have I maxed out my IRA this year? Am I on track to max? If you'd like to max and you haven't, we will let you know and we will pull those funds right over. This is a good time to revisit your distribution strategy if you're in retirement. Like, are you getting enough money? Do you have too much money coming in? Do you need to pull back on your distribution? Maybe you're not spending as much as you thought you would. Are you spending more than you thought you would? So this is a good time to think about that. And for business owners, considering have you added enough, checking in with your accountant about adding to your SEP or your solo 401ks, depending on your business structure, and maxing those out this year or adding more to help you with your taxes based on where your projected income is. So this is a good time to do that. Some adjustments for 2026. So I'm going to verbally go over this. I know it's a lot. So if you'd like this emailed to you, just let me know. IRA limits are changing for 2026. So for IRAs and Roth IRAs, it will be $7,500 is the max IRA and Roth IRA contribution for individuals under age 50. If you are over age 50, it will be $8,600. The 401k limit, so if you have a 401k, a 457B, a 403B, you can contribute 24,500 if you are age 50 and under for 2026. If you are over age 50, the catch-up contribution is $8,000. So you can do the 24,500 plus the 8. If you are between the ages of 60 and 63, you get an extra special catch-up contribution, and you can add an additional 11,250 instead of the 8,000. So the 24,500 plus 11,250. So this is for 2026. So that's a good time when you get into the new year to go into your 401k, your deferred comp, your 457, whatever your plan is, and make sure if you want to be maxing that you make those adjustments on your contributions. One other thing that we are doing right now for clients, tax loss harvesting, it does not apply to everybody, but tax loss harvesting is something we can do. Markets have been strong, but there are some pockets of losses that exist. So sometimes in the mid cap, small cap space right now, we're seeing some losses, not in the large cap space generally, but this is a way to take advantage of those losses, which offsets capital gains. So if you sold a house, if you sold a large stock position, we can harvest some losses at the end of year in order to offset some of the gains on your taxes. So this is something that's evaluated carefully. It's not an emotional selling strategy. It's something that's done strategically and on a case-by-case basis when appropriate in the right kind of account. And then Roth conversions also, they can be very powerful, but they're also very personalized. The deadline for Roth conversions is coming up. What that basically means is you're taking pre-tax money and you're converting it to a Roth IRA. So sometimes when I see this working well, a good example would be my daughter. She had a summer job that put money into a deferred compensation plan. She had about $1,000 there. She's 19 years of age. So it's pre-tax $1,000. So if she earns no income now, so this would be a good year, for example, for me to take that $1,000 out. It's taxable income, but she has no other taxable income. So I can convert that tax-free to a Roth. And then over the course of the next 55, 60 years of her life, that $1,000 will grow tax-free in a Roth IRA. So it works really, really great for young people, or if there's a year where you have a lot of pre-tax money and maybe you had a layoff or you're made redundant in your role, that would be a great time to do it too. Again, a case-by-case basis, very something to talk about before it's done, because it can have some significant tax implications if done at not the right time. Okay, lastly, I'm going to set expectations for 2026. Very briefly, our firm outlook for LPL expects the first half of 26 to feel sluggish. So not going crazy in the markets, not a big bull market, not a bear market either, but kind of sluggy and sluggish and lagging. We do not expect a recession in 2026. Easing monetary policy, which we've seen from the Fed last week, and some business-friendly conditions that remain should still support expansion in the markets. So you will see expansion in the markets, likely. The job market does remain healthy, but inflation will likely continue to lag as well. So I think to sum it up, sluggish first half of the year, but not a negative year in the markets, likely. Nothing is guaranteed. We never know. We always know. And again, when we're positioning your portfolio, we always know the market will go down. We just don't know when. We don't know what will cause it. And anytime the firm sets market expectations, this is outside of a shock. This is outside of a COVID-19 situation. This is outside of a 9/11 situation. This is things we cannot predict, completely throw the outlook out the window. So we want to make sure you're always prepared for a downturn, even those that we cannot predict are coming. All right, I'm going to open to questions as we wrap the year. Again, just I want you to be intentional I'm being intentional with your portfolios. This is a good time to rethink about some of these topics. I'm also moving into 2026 being intentional with who I work with and how I work with you. So if there's anything we spoke about today that resonates with you, or you know somebody who values thoughtful planning, or maybe you were having some of these conversations recently. So somebody who's looking for some ongoing advice in a long-term partnership, I'm always open to an introductory conversation. I love working with my clients, friends, and family. That is the best. It's the best compliment. And it's just such an honor because if I like working with you, I'll like working with your friends. Also, because we're at year end, I'm not scheduling any more full annual reviews in the next couple of weeks. The calendar is pretty full, but if you do want to connect in January or early in the new year to review anything we talked about, you're always welcome to email, or we can do a phone call before the end of the year, but not a full review. But I am happy to set something up in terms of an office appointment in the new year. So just reach out to Deborah Hope by phone or email or text. And thank you again for spending part of your evening with me. I really hope this gave you a helpful lens as you step into 2026.